Welcome to the Big Biz Show.
Taking care of business.
You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
That is right, and a big old Happy New Year to everybody out there in TV land, radio land. It's the Big Biz Show. Costa, Mary Godwin, our executive producer is Greg Todoroff, and of course, Sully. How are you?
Greg is just relishing the fact that I just tore everybody's A out, and it was all. It was like, oh,
never mind.
No, I had no tape here.
There was
not
one?
Perfect. Oh, Happy New Year.
They missed the tape?
I missed the tape.
I'm sorry.
Well, listen, here's my philosophy. And for our audience who's been so faithful to us for 30 some odd years on radio and 16 or 17 years on television, we know we got it made. It's a great job. We're not saving lives here. So why can't we be perfect here?
It's a great point.
Greg.
Yeah, no,
Hold on. There we go. There we go.
So,
my gosh.
so I had a great holiday. You have a great holiday?
Great holiday.
What'd you do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It was beautiful.
Did you put any poundage?
I probably did, but I've been hitting the gym pretty heavy as of last.
Like you're walking the gym pretty heavy, or you?
Both.
Okay, just
Both. Yeah.
because is there?
Yeah.
How about you, Greg? Did you have a good time?
Fabulous.
I had a great time with you guys.
Oh man, phenomenal.
We made Cioppino one night for
Cioppino?
Oh, you did?
Oh, well, he did.
I was going to say.
and then well,
I said I wanted to make it, and then he comes over. Get out of the way.
I actually
Makes an amazing
okay.
Cioppino. I will say that. Amazing Cioppino.
Truthfully,
It's like a family recipe.
Here's what
Okay, is it Cioppino or Cioppino?
Cioppino. Actually, you know what?
It's tomato, tomato.
You pronunciate every single
Cioppino.
So Cioppino.
Cioppino.
So
Okay, I like that.
but truthfully, this is what happened. Greg's wife Hollis says, "Do you have a Cioppino recipe?" I said, "Do I have a Cioppino recipe? I make it every year. It comes from my grandmother."
Come on.
I've got starter going all the way back from my grandmother was alive like 40 years ago. Because you save some every single time.
Do you really?
You save some, yeah. So I said, look, I got it. I said, Greg, and we'll go shopping. Well, I said, forget that. I just went shopping myself. I just made it a week ago. Brought it over to his house and said, get out of the way. So he starts filming and stuff, and next thing you know, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's simple stuff to do.
Insane.
What are your
4 days later, I'm
and then-
still eating it.
Yeah.
What fish do you put in it?
Everything.
Yeah.
It's what
Mussels, shrimp.
yeah, everything.
You put clams,
You know?
crab.
I'll give you this
No,
if you want.
He throws in halibut. And
Okay,
it's
halibut,
pretty
yeah.
And then it
insane
disintegrates.
What halibut does because it thickens it
Yeah.
to the point where it's like a, I don't know, like a stew.
It's like a Bloody Mary mix if you strain off the fish and put it in vodka. It's
Unreal.
like-
Where'd you get all the fresh fish?
I just want this.
Wait, we're right by the
Well,
ocean.
it's
We're right by the
truthfully-
ocean, Mary.
I know, but where's
Mary,
place to
truthfully,
go?
From
and
his
you
shoe?
guys all gained weight. Mary and I lost weight. I went through it. I went through a horrible, personal experience.
Yeah.
I had to.
Stub your toe.
No, I actually had to. I actually
out?
had to work 2 days.
Oh.
So all I could do is I got my
awful.
precious cook. What did you do for your holiday?
I did a lot of relaxing.
Did you really?
Yes.
With were the girls easier?
They actually left town with their dad, and I had
Beautiful.
5
Mary's
days
like-
of quiet. No, I did a couple things, went out with friends, and then also I caught up on some movies that are going to be up for the Academy Awards because I always have to be up
Okay.
on the
This should be
pop
good.
culture.
This should be good. What
okay.
movies did we catch up on?
Wicked.
Okay, everyone
one.
needs to go see Emilia Perez.
Is that?
It's a musical. I just have to tell you, it is.
Is that with
it's
Demi
the most-
Moore? Or is that the one with the?
Oh, I did watch that one, which The Substance with Demi Moore, and I did not like it. However, her performance was amazing.
Okay, but what about Selena
I saw
Gomez? It was
Selena Gomez, yes, she was in it.
She's the meanest
but
person
Zoe
in the
Saldana, she won.
Oh, Zoe Saldana. I beg your
Yes, she was
Love her.
incredible. No, it deserved all the.
Have you seen the show Lioness?
No, but I.
No, my wife just started
So good. Go back to season 2 first, then watch season 1.
with what's Nicole Kidman?
Have you watched Only Murders in the Building?
Yes, but I'm not caught up.
I am so in.
Okay.
It is the greatest show on television. And then Hacks, of course.
Hacks is the best.
All right.
The best.
Happy New Year. 2025. Here we come. This show.
Wherever you are watching, wherever you're listening, it is the Big Biz Show. We come to you live from Southern California, inside the Loft 100 studios. Hope you're having a great day. I'm Costa. That pretty lady is Mary Burt Godwin.
Hey, pretty lady.
That handsome gentleman is Greg Todoroff, our executive producer, and of course, Sully.
I'm looking at my phone here as the Marcus student here. So we have Howie Font coming in a second. Because we saw the Trump bump. I don't care what you think about him as a president. I don't care what you think as a person. I can tell you, just in the world of advertising for television, in the world of publicly traded companies, ever since the election, there is a palpable shift in terms of what is happening with business. Sales are increasing already, which is just amazing. I can't tell, and this is one for Mary, I can't tell if it's because things were so bad, regardless of why, things were so bad that the hope of, business-friendly environment, deregulation, less taxes or whatever is just enough to get people, because remember, the market runs on two emotions, and that's fear and greed, right? So does, perception is reality when it comes to the economy. Remember, because when I told you when we were paying $3.50 for gas 8 years ago, you said, "Oh my God!" And now we're used to $3.50. Please give us $3.50 for gas, right? Yeah. So I think the perception is a really interesting thing here. Howie Font is our analyst here in the Big Biz Show. Do we have an intro for Howie anymore? Is he part of the? Do we get a little thing there? No.
Mike, you want to sing him a little intro
like a little thing.
Here comes Howie.
Nice to see you. Is
beautiful.
I know that we have fundamentals that get us to where we're supposed to be in terms of us. Oh, there it is. Okay, good.
Hey.
Awesome.
Hey, listen, the guy's still hungover from the Christmas party.
Production of a Market Watch. Okay, here we go.
Hey, because look, if you think in terms of markets, that's one thing. The economy is a different story. But it seems like the perception out there is happy days are here again. I mean, here goes 2025. Pardon me. I just had a beer before the show. We tape the show at 7 in the morning, by the way.
2025, a lot like 2024.
No, you can't drink
We're
all day.
easing into 2020. We're off-ramping 2024 ever since the 20th of December for our Christmas party, which is why your intro was a little bit late as well. Can you talk to us about not success for the market, but success for the economy just based on perception? Because something has happened since this election. And I don't know if it's because we didn't know who was president since the election, and it seems like Donald Trump started early, right?
A little bit.
Or am I just reading the wrong headlines? Because I'm hearing this both on CNN, I'm hearing this also on Fox.
No, I mean, you have to remember that the market is reading into changes in the economy that are likely to happen and pricing those in now with new expectations going forward. So that's exactly what the election did, and you're right. I think it's mostly on the regulatory side, things like everything from IRS enforcement to government agencies being defunded or replaced or reduced. Things like Doge really do matter. And as crazy as it sounds, maybe some breaking news for the Big Biz Show, renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, the 51st state with former Governor Trudeau. I mean, there's a lot on the table that's showing the
Howie Font, the 2035 Republican candidate for president, Howie Font.
No, but by the way, all those, we got the Gulf of America thing today. The Biden administration vetoed the Japan Steel, U.S. Steel merger. The Trump administration is going to go after that. They've asked for TikTok not to be sold off. President Trump will likely extend TikTok's life if he is able
well, can we talk about that for a minute? Because
happening.
Well, the edict that came down was that by the 20th, I believe, or the 21st of January, which is just 2 weeks away, they want either to have divested out of, they want the Chinese divested out of TikTok, or they want the company sold. Well, you can divest that quickly, or at least you say. I guess what they're looking for is they fired a shot across the bow, Howie, and now it comes down to, because you can't close the deal that fast.
They've had 6 months plus a couple extensions, so it's not like they haven't seen this coming. TikTok chose to go down the court route and go down the political route and try and convince people that this needs to change. President Trump's position switched from 2016 to 2020. He used TikTok a lot in the 2024 campaign and now says he's fine with TikTok. So we'll see if the Supreme Court, which is where it's going, allows the company to stay just a little bit longer, then Trump can keep giving extensions to that law and they'll never have to
Can I interrupt for a second?
divest.
Do you know what we forgot?
What?
The Day Trader Trio's here. I forgot you guys. Oh my God. Got a little something fun.
Speaking of TikTok.
You guys are so polite and just sitting there. And,
You look like sneak in late.
no, we put the AC up there so they'd all bundle up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're down here. So Howie, talk about the exuberance in the market, because there's definitely something changing. 2024 can only be called a success for the market, but 2025, it looks like we're back to where we were, sort of not in the salad days of 2023, but we're kind of. It looks like we're back. What's going on?
Yeah, so I think the 2024 story was, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. If you have a 25% year, 24% year as you did last year, that's pretty cool. So 2024 was the year of big tech. They outperformed everything. They were the only ones who had profits increase. But this year looks to be, with all of the regulatory changes and governmental action that's going to happen, and tax cuts, if that happens through reconciliation, more of a broad comeuppance for the market. So you should see some equalizing between, the stocks that have been very, very high and everything else.
Okay, so I have a question for Mike.
Yes.
During Donald Trump's last presidency, give me your description of what he did for the economy in your perception.
I think he lowered energy costs. I think he opened up more gas and oil exploration and/or drilling. And I think he gave the economy a much-needed bump.
Barry, what do you think he did?
I don't.
Let me tell you what he did.
Anything positive to say? Although I know that you say that you had the best year ever, and lots of people.
But let me tell you what's interesting.
Yeah.
Is Donald Trump didn't do a lot for the economy, except for one thing that caused a broken glass effect, a waterfall effect, if you will, whereby he lowered corporate taxes, we were the highest, the highest corporate tax country of any industrialized nation, at 39% corporate taxes. And he promised us 15%. He got him down to what, Howie, 21? And what that did, and the law of
21, he wants him at 17 now.
Right, and the law of unintended circumstances was, or consequences was, law of unintended consequences was those companies took that money savings and gave it to their employees. Now, he took credit for it. It wasn't his. He didn't intend it. Okay, he had a good intention to bring it. Okay, from there, the economy went insane because we had more money to spend. We repatriated companies because, look, as a publicly traded company, how you can vouch for me on this. If you're CEO of a public company, you have a fiduciary responsibility. In other words, jail time if you don't do this. Okay, create shareholder value, maximize shareholder value. If it is cheaper for you to do business, Apple, in Ireland, or base your business in Ireland than U.S., you have to, right, Howie? I mean, it is you are required as a CEO. Sarbanes-Oxley says CEO, CFO, you can no longer have your accountant sign off on it. You are responsible personally. Jail time if you do not maximize shareholder value. What happened was we wouldn't have a thing called the Rust Belt if we didn't have a problem in the economy in the past. So Howie, explain what happens. More companies going to repatriate? You see the same thing going to happen again, or is just like buying the rumor, selling the news, the market kind of absorbs everything ahead of time? What do you think?
So there was a repatriation of funds during the first George W. Bush administration in the early 2000s, and then we had another one in 2016 with the 2017 tax cuts. That allowed one. That kind of is a base that needs to build. There needs to be a sufficient tonnage of dollars outside of the U.S. That haven't been able to get in. And when that gets there, there tends to be congressional action allowing some of those dollars to come back in at a special rate.
Right.
So I don't know if that kind of has filled up to the same tonnage as those last two repatriations, but I think we shouldn't just be waiting for this optimal timing. We have to use Congress to give everyone a special deal to get their money in. We should just have a reasonable rate, which is, I think, what you were saying before. I will say, I think Mike's exactly spot on with the energy point, and let's just have a nuanced discussion
Sniff of superiority.
Here. There were also all of the tariffs, and when he was president the first time, there was a lot of up and down in the market because of the trade war headlines and volatility that he caused.
Did he also bring in a lot of
positive, but lots of
deregulation too? Detroit.
Well, he made it small business friendly by deregulating a lot of things, but what really did it was a tax. Real quickly, Howie, when we see you tomorrow, I want to talk about tech companies because companies like Amazon and Apple are now making more money per minute than the median home price of most. Facebook, for the uninitiated, the acronym is what is it? FAMG, I think it's called. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google. Collectively worth $8 trillion collectively. Amazon's making $837,000 per minute. Apple's making $700,000 per minute. Alphabet's making $427,000 per minute. Microsoft, $1.9 trillion per minute. No, that's not true. 322. But the long story short is, and Facebook coming in last at $220,000 per minute.
Slackers.
Last Market Watch thing, there's a day of mourning for Jimmy Carter on the 9th, so there will be no equity on markets open that day.
Yeah, I heard about that. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow, but thanks so much. Howie, thoughts?
What happened to Jimmy Carter?
Hey, can we
In over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network, as always. A shout out to our brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Big Biz Show rolls on from Southern California. Loft 100 Studios, Costa, Miraber, Godwin, Greg Todoroff, and Sully.
That's right, you got it. Thank you to Bloomberg, El Financiero, Bloomberg EU, as well as Big Biz, Biz Television Network, American Life Network, and of course, as Mike mentioned, we are simulcast on radio over American Forces Radio Network. Big Biz Show is on the air. Great to have you along. Day Trader Trio is here today. Mary, Mike, Greg. enGene is a really interesting company. And I got a chance to talk to Ron Cooper here on the air about a month ago. And got a chance to talk to him just the last couple of weeks as we started kind of digging into to their publicly traded company. Their stock symbol is ENGN. Company's called enGene. Ron Cooper's the CEO. And what's interesting is I started getting emails from viewers after we got the original email, Greg, from someone saying we should take a look at this company. And it's all about a risk-reward ratio for enGene as far as the business goes. But I thought we'd bring Ron Cooper back on and have another chat. Ron, great to see you again, sir. How are you?
Great to see you, Sully. A real pleasure to be here.
Hey, can we talk about what NMBC is and how it's currently treated? Let's give a little bit of an education on what you guys are up against here.
Sure. So non-muscle invasive bladder cancer. So this is a top 10 cancer in the U.S. So you think about lung cancer, you think about breast cancer and the like, but it's a very common cancer in the United States. And when you think about NMIBC, it really affects, so say you're in your mid-70s, right? So you're a mid-70s individual. If you're diagnosed with NMIBC, you have a 20% chance of progressing over a 10-year time frame before it progresses to muscle invasive bladder cancer, which gets very, very serious. So it's a cancer, but it's a slow cancer. And right now you get treated with a drug called BCG. It's a product that's over 50 years old. It's an immunotherapy, or you get off-label chemotherapy. But unfortunately, those products will not work for a long time frame. And patients usually will end up having their bladder removed. And that surgery, unfortunately, has an up to 10% chance of death. So pretty serious, but really high morbidity too. So you'll end up having an ostomy bag. So
I was going to say
you have to go to the bathroom through that, and you lose a lot of sexual function as well. So pretty tough disease.
I'll say the what's interesting with this, especially with enGene, stock symbol once again ENGN, and you can get more information by going to engene.com. We'll put up the website there on the screen for our viewers. The FDA needs to address this because of the population and the addressable market. And obviously, you're in the middle of this journey, this arc of that FDA story. Talk to us about the FDA, where they sit in on this, and where you guys are at in terms of getting us to the point where we don't have to worry about this malady any longer.
Well, if you think about the drugs that I talked about, so you have chemotherapy, which is not approved, then you have BCG, this over 50-year-old product, that has a relapse rate of about 50% in 2 years. So it's a pretty good drug, but it does fade. But that product is tough to manufacture, and it's been back ordered for multiple decades. So I love this. The FDA said, well, this is very serious. How can we partner? What can we do about this? And they gave new guidance to say, Rather than having 2 double-blind placebo-controlled studies for approval, if you do 1 study, open label, about 100 patients, you can get approval. And based on that, 3 new drugs have been approved. Now, unfortunately, these 2 new drugs, they're effective, but they also over time fade. So the FDA has really said, we need new agents to help patients who have this terrible disease of NMIBC.
Ron Cooper is the CEO of enGene, their ticker symbol ENGN. Ron, what makes the product candidate, all the other things, bigger, better, stronger with you guys?
Well, what's amazing about our product candidate, detalimogene, number one, it works, right? So we have a 71% complete response rate at any time. So really great efficacy. But patients are also concerned about how do they feel on the drug. And what's great about detalimogene is that in early studies, the side effects are usually grade 1 or 2. So no 3 or above, 1 or 2, mostly mild, mostly reversible. So really well tolerated. But the third aspect, which makes it really interesting, is this product is really designed for ease of use for both the community urologist and the physician. So what does that mean? There's no special handling. It's not a big toxic virus. There's no special storage that's required. It's only 1 hour of administration time for the patient, so relatively short. And there's fewer trips to the doctor compared to BCG. So if you package it all together, it makes detalimogene a pretty attractive product based on its efficacy, great tolerability, and ease of use.
So this detalimogene that you discussed, that obviously you got like 7 or 8 proprietary advantages. How tough is it going to be for the medical community to adopt that? Do you think because of what you just said, the ease of use, is that the way in the door? And then from there, when they see the efficacy, it goes from there? Because at some point, there's the standard, as you said, chemo and BCG, and that's just kind of the way it's been done forever. And so does it ever occur to you guys that might be a challenge, or have you guys, was the ease of use part of that, encountering that objection before you even got there?
When you talk to urologists who've been treating these patients for decades, they're so frustrated because they know that they're going to run out of options quickly, and they would love for patients to keep their bladders for all the obvious reasons that we talked about previously. So it's never, it's always has a little bit of challenge, but I think the medical community is anxiously awaiting a product like detalimogene because they don't want patients to progress to muscle-invasive bladder cancer, and they don't want them to progress to where they have to remove their bladder. So having a product like detalimogene could really help patients to longer and better lives.
Hey, Ron, I have a question about bladder cancer itself, because you mentioned something about being one of the 10 most common cancers, which I did not know that. And does it affect women and men at the same rate? And is it something that starts, that you're seeing later in life and older patients? And, I just don't know much about it because, like you said, we hear a lot about
But now
cancer.
She's scared, I can tell you that.
I am, yes, I know. Tell me more.
Well, unfortunately, the average age of diagnosis is around mid-70s, right? And probably the biggest correlate risk, like many cancer diseases, is smoking. So if you are a big smoker, you have a high risk, for bladder cancer. Those are probably the 2 biggest, demographic aspects around bladder cancer. But this early bladder cancer, NMIBC, is a cancer where these are almost like hard plaques all around the bladder. So you can't cut them out, right? There's other forms where you can cut out, growths. So because it's a hard plaque around, you need a different treatment. So we deliver detalimogene, through a catheter and kind of bathes the bladder, right? And gets rid of or slows down the progression of these plaques, these carcinoma in situ. And that's what you want to avoid, because if it gets into the muscle, then you'll end up with metastatic disease, and it really becomes, very, very, very difficult.
Ron, always appreciate the visit, doing great things for people with liver cancer, bladder cancer. Can't wait to have you on the show again. Thanks, you. Pal. Ron Cooper, CEO, enGene. Their ticker symbol is ENGN. More of the Big Biz Show coming after this. Keep it here.
Greg will send me.
100 studios in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, as always, we appreciate you being along for the ride here. The ride, of course, is the Big Biz Show. I am Costa. That lady right there is Mary Burt Godwin.
That little lady.
My co-worker. Our exec producer is Greg Totterod, and of course, Sully.
Have you done any singing this song?
Oh. What song is this?
It's a Mike Costa shuffle.
Oh, is it? I'm just gonna freelance?
No.
Freelance.
Freelance.
Or freestyle. One of the two.
Freelance.
You are going to mouth
Okay, here we
the
go.
words that Trace Hodges is going to rap.
Go, Trace, go.
Oh, okay, it's on me?
Yep.
All right, check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Syllabus and Trees, the articles. This artist ain't audible. I started with the written
gotta move your lips.
That's a freestyle now. Means I didn't write it down. I put it down like this. Like when I hand to a fist, it just swings like this. Mike holds the microphone, and it's hitting 2 times with the rhyme like this.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Trace is the best in the business.
Well, look at that. The 30% of Sullivan that's going to be playing at the Beach Life Festival.
Did I really say that?
I
Lots of
love it.
rapping.
I
Lots of
love it
tours this
when
year.
Trace freelances. That is one of my
Sorry.
favorite things on this show.
myself.
Is when Trace
You need to come.
freelances.
Listen, when we play in front of these 30,000 people, you need to come on stage with us and just block the drummer.
Perfect.
And just do that stuff.
Perfect.
Look who's with us, Jason Barry. The world's most handsome guest that we've ever had in the history of this program. Mike's
Mount
Mike's feeling a
Rushmore.
little awkward this morning. You feel, you're next to me every day. And, Mr. Hair and makeup over there. I know that. You feel better? Jason, welcome to the program. Jason Barry is a real estate expert here in the city of San Diego. As you know, we're at 125 million homes across the country. We're also an American Forces Network and a Bloomberg El Financiero, Bloomberg EU. But we broadcast here in San Diego, which is arguably the worst spot to try to buy a house in the country right now. 2 things I want to talk to you about. Zen, you're a local sort of specialty property guy, right?
Yes.
You're in a higher, I guess, if you're listening to us from Opelika, Alabama, you're going to feel much better about yourself right now. What is the median price of a home in the areas like, let's say here in San Diego, you've got like a La Jolla, you've got a Del Mar, you've got a Point Loma, you've got Rancho Santa Fe, some of the higher. For the rest of San Diego, it's about $700,000, $800,000. In these areas, though, it's more like what, $3-4 million?
A little more, actually.
No kidding.
What's interesting is, so if you look back to 2019, pre-COVID, right? Mm-hmm. We used to look at what is kind of the entry level getting into La Jolla, getting into Del Mar, getting into Rancho Santa Fe, the luxury communities. Those are some of the luxury communities. Yeah. And it was interesting, that was about $3 million back then. That it is escalated now to it's a solid $5 million.
Wow.
To get into a home that's a decent home, but you're still gonna have work.
And the reason I bring up these areas is because you've got the same problem in Dallas, Texas. You've got the same problem in New York City. You've got the same problems in parts of Miami, other parts of the country. Why are these luxury areas becoming so sticky in terms of price point? Is it strictly inventory, or is it just the fact that people are making more money and there's more competition for these houses?
I think yes and yes. I mean, the reality of the situation, it's nice to go back and look at economics, right? Mm-hmm. Basic economic supply demand, so what you're talking about is right. Inventory's low, period. Yeah. So you've got, it's pressure on prices pushing up. But I think the other reason specifically, and you're right, you can bring up other areas like Dallas, you can bring up, Miami, you can bring up Florida, why so much of the wealth has gone down there as well. But I think you look at basic amenities, right? What is San Diego? What does it offer where we all are here? Right. First and foremost, I think it's best weather. I think we'd all agree with that.
It's not sports, I can tell you that, is it, Mike?
Still hurts.
Yeah, that's
so. Are we pay, so for those folks that think about coming to San Diego or moving to California, is it really a lot about the weather? Because we're paying 80 cents more per gallon on gas for environmental fees. We're paying a premium just for the water view, right?
Right.
And then, of course, we're in the failed Republic of California in terms of politically speaking. I don't care what side of the political fence you're on. We're not a healthy state in terms of economics, but yet people still come here. How does that affect real estate for the average Joe trying to get this town?
Well, they're looking to answer that question. What you're saying is, why would they come here? And one is the weather. The other are the amenities, right? Or what are those amenities? Well, believe it or not, in those communities, it's safe. It's a safe, secure community. You've got some of the best education that's offered here. You've got fabulous amenities with restaurants, with outdoor lifestyle. And ultimately, that's what people are doing, isn't it? They're looking for that quality lifestyle. I think all of us here probably have had the good fortune of being able to travel around the nation, maybe even the world. And I haven't seen a better place to live.
Yeah.
I feel so fortunate to be able to sell, live, and experience with my family in Rancho Santa Fe, in Del Mar, in La Jolla, realizing this is the area that we're selling and working. But I believe that is the reason why people are choosing to come here too.
Jason Berry, CEO, Jason Berry Team, Berry Estates, the website jasonberryteam.com. That's BARRY team.com, and also berryestates.com. How long are properties staying on the market? I mean, are they going like that once they're listed?
And not only exclusive stuff, but overall.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting question and statistic you constantly hear the news referencing to. What are days on market? It's a little bit of a misnomer. Let me explain why. It never takes into account if a property is relisted. Many times these properties are relisted and all of a sudden it's reset on the market, right? So
because if I was going to sell a house and the thing's set there for 9 days, let's take it off for a minute and put it back on so it shows it's only been on the market for a day, right?
Correct. So there are those loopholes that people will play to go through. But, when you're looking at, what Soli was talking about is the basics of supply, right? So of economic supply and demand, supply is low right now.
Okay.
So if the properties, one thing we're noticing is if they're being priced correctly, they're gone within 30 to 60 days.
My goodness. So for the rest of us, okay, that don't live in the $6 million world, what are you looking at in terms of market trends for 2025? Is because look, we got bad news today.
Yeah.
For the first time, market rates are moving opposite of the Fed rate, where we've seen these mortgage rates that look like, because of the long bond, looking at 4 to 8% again, where we're supposed to be in the other direction. Does that affect your feeling about 2025 overall in the real estate market?
It definitely does. I mean, before we were out there, let's say the beginning of the fall, much more optimistic. Now we're cautiously optimistic. It's interesting also that you saw supply was much greater in the beginning of the fall compared to the end of the year. So it dropped.
So that drives prices as well, right?
Correct, but that was also optimism for the new government that's come in, right? So that's interesting. So I think there is optimism for business in that regard, and moving forward, more pro-business.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully that'll kind of counterbalance the rates, which is correct too. And so hopefully we're not going to see a scenario or situation or environment with which rates are going to be raised, but we will see, right? Time will tell. But right now, we are cautiously optimistic still, based on what we're seeing right now. The amount of demand that we have here is very healthy.
Real quickly, before you get to your question, does California set, fashion set in New York and goes west? Does real estate set in the west and go east by any chance?
I would say as far as prices go, I would say it definitely gets set in LA.
No kidding.
I think that is definitely a solid precursor there, in addition to the East Coast too. But then again, it's splintered, right? I mean, you have a lot of those people are going around outside of that too, and San Diego is a hotspot.
So I have a horse in this race because my family home that I grew up in, my mom passed away, and it's up for sale, and it's a beautiful part of town.
It's a beautiful part of town.
Yeah,
Like one of the higher.
It's in Mission Hill. It's a beautiful view of San Diego.
Beautiful part of town.
It
looks at the bay, it looks at downtown. I mean,
you can't get a better view. It's older though, because my parents weren't keeping it, and I said, well, it was their style from back in the 80s.
Right.
Ethan Allen.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering, we've heard a different amount of what is being priced at, and some people I would think just want to come in and gut it. But are people doing that, lowering the price so that then they can go in and gut it and redo it themselves?
It's all relative to price.
Okay.
Right. So, for instance, they're looking at that relative to what else can they get at whatever the price is of that home. For instance, they're looking there, what else can you get for whatever the price that home is compared to maybe some new developments, maybe out at 4S and Del Sur where you're getting some new homes, but then it's about location, right?
Then they don't have the view.
Exactly.
So these are pockets of San Diego. I mean, you guys are a niche market, and there's niche markets all across this country, and mom and pop guys. How do you compete with Berkshire Hathaways and Sotheby's and Caldwell Banker? How do you even compete with those guys?
Great question. The reality is understanding how the market works. And it's funny because there is another misnomer out there that you have, for instance, like you said, Berkshire Hathaway or Sotheby's, with thousands of offices all over the nation, right? So when I first got into business, it was very frustrating for me back in the 90s. I'd go out and listing appointments, and they would say, well, we are going to go out with Berkshire Hathaway because how can you compete exactly what Soli's saying with thousands of offices? It would frustrate me because what does that mean? I mean, I like to break things down. First principles, Elon Musk, right? What does that mean? That means to me, if someone's saying that to me, that means if they've got thousands of offices, you have thousands of offices working for you, right? Okay, well, is that true? I like to know the truth. So back in the 90s, I made calls to the other offices, not cross-country, in Encinitas. And I said, hey, I'm
6 miles away.
Calling about your listing there in Del Mar. Yeah, you got the wrong office. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
So It was a misnomer, right? So then what I decided is let's go create something real. So that's what we did. We then traveled up and down the coast.
Authenticity carries the day as usual.
Yeah.
Jason Berry, the CEO, Jason Berry Team and Berry Estates. The website to find him is jasonberryteam.com. Also, berryestates.com.
You guys
are awesome.
You need to come back
You guys are
Will you come back often?
I'd love to.
No, not going anywhere. Running out of here. He's trying to get away from me.
Well,
You guys are awesome.
That Funyun smell is what he's trying to get away from. Jason, Big Biz Show, bigbizshow.com. We're back in a minute.
Great.
live from sunny Southern California, we are inside the Loft 100 studios. New year of the Big Biz Show. As always, we appreciate everybody being along for the ride, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Hope your new year is off to a good start. I'm Costa, Marybird Godwin, Greg Todorov, and Sully.
David Garofalo, thank you. Day Trader Trio. James East. How was your holiday, sir? Did you have a good time?
It was beautiful.
You like it? Have a good time?
Very mellow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Brian Jordan, did you play for any major acts this time around?
No major acts.
No, good. Yeah. Trace Sojourn Hodgins, did you save your voice?
Saved my voice, but played with Rebecca Jade, so that was cool.
Hey.
David Garofalo is the chairman and CEO of Gold Royalty Corp. One of my favorite guys. This guy's one of the smartest guys in the gold business, and they trade on the New York Stock Exchange. GROY is their stock symbol. And of course, he is the chairman and CEO of Gold Royalty Corp. You know, gold royalty companies are at the top of the food chain. They're basically finance companies for gold business. And David knows everything from A to Z about this stuff. David, great to see you, man. Thanks for coming back. Got to get you back in studio, man.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Nice to see you too.
Hey, can you talk about a little bit about what we're seeing with inflation? You know, since the election, you know, there's a lot of bright spots in terms of it looks like new businesses coming into a lot of industries and so on and so forth. Then we get this horrible news that mortgage rates are climbing to 8% because they're going in the opposite direction of the Fed. Gold has often been talked about as a hedge against inflation. Can you help us understand where inflation stands right now, where you think it's going to be here in the next, let's talk about 6 months to 18 months, and are we going in the right direction or not?
No, it's very sticky. And I think gold is an accurate barometer of that. The long end of the yield curve, as you correctly pointed out, is an agnostic and accurate barometer of what's really going on with underlying inflation. So inflation rates are significantly higher than the headline numbers might indicate. 3%, that's really fiction. It's economic fiction. It's not the reality on the ground. And gold is just reflecting that and reflecting the need, the desire of the central banks to continue to expand monetary supply because they've got so much debt to deal with at the federal level. There's no other way to deal with it other than to print it away.
The other thing too is, as you have mentioned before, and some of your predecessors, Trey Wasser, for example, who we used to have on a regular basis, is the more money flow, the more money we dump into the system, inflation follows right after that. And it's almost a barometer where you can almost predict that gold prices are going in the right direction. I mean, for right now, I'm looking at, gold futures right now are at 26.62.90. Gold futures are crazy right now. In terms of that, if you were a betting man, the trend is your friend. This is the right time to get into gold and gold royalties at this point, right?
Absolutely. I mean, gold at 3,000 could happen tomorrow. That's an easy prediction to make. Mm-hmm. The question is, how far up will it go? It'll be entirely a function of how much money supply will increase. And I think it's going to have to increase substantially more to deal with the massive amount of debt that the federal government is strapped on. And if you look at gold over a 50-year horizon from when the central banks actually eliminated the gold standard in the early 1970s. It's been a one-way trade. Gold's gone from $35 an ounce to $2,800 an ounce today, whereas the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar has declined by over 96%.
David Garofalo, the chairman, CEO of Gold Royalty Corp. Their ticker symbol is GROY. David, as far as the new administration coming in with President Trump, is there any hope on your part of being able to possibly drill in areas that maybe you weren't the last 4 years?
Well, I think that, bodes well for mine development generally, but the lack of exploration over the last decade means that even if the regulatory regime improves. And we're not going to see the evidence of that for at least a decade or so, because typically the timelines from discovery to first production are 15 to 20 years. And the lack of access to capital for the juniors in our space, all the explorers, the ones that do all the heavy lifting, the grassroots exploration that we need to continue to perpetuate our industry, simply hasn't been happening for the last dozen years or so. So even if the market has opened up for those junior companies and they made significant discoveries tomorrow, we wouldn't see any mine supply reaction for at least a decade to 15 years.
Now, David, we've been talking about the industry. How does gold royalty specifically benefit from the increase in gold prices?
Well, look, we have optimum leverage to the gold price. We have unmitigated leverage. In fact, all of our revenue is really from the top line at the mine site. We get a percentage of the gross revenue. So it really doesn't matter what happens to their operating capital costs. Our margins are 90+% because we have very low overheads. We're effectively a financial institution, as Sully pointed out earlier on. We're a bank that provides capital to the explorers, the developers, the operators, who otherwise have been able to access capital, as I said earlier on, for the last dozen years or so. What we do is provide that capital to expand and explore their properties while we take a royalty back in return as repayment.
Hey, David, before we let you out of here today, I want to talk about how you guys compare to other gold royalty companies, because this is what's really impressive. That's why I love your company. That's why I beat up his phone lines when we're off there to try to get him to come on more. But you guys really do. You are leading the sector. In the last count, what is it? 240, 220 royalties. What are we looking at right now?
Yeah, 245 royalties, but I think most importantly, there's a couple of characteristics of our portfolio that really are standouts. One is over 80% of our portfolio is in 3 jurisdictions, Nevada, Quebec, and Ontario, which are the best jurisdictions in the world for mineral potential, low political risk, and low regulatory risk. But also, 3 of the 5 biggest producing gold mines in North America have our royalties on them. And so not only do we have quantity and diversity of the royalty portfolio, but we also have some foundational cornerstone assets that are going to provide annuities for our shareholders for decades to come.
The thing you're looking most forward to in 2025, in as much as you can share with us as a CEO of a public company, what are you looking forward to in terms of your company and of course gold as a whole?
This is our inflection year. We only started business a little over 3 years ago. March of 2021 is when we IPO'd with no revenue. This year, we're free cash flow positive for the first time in our history. So we've reached that inflection point where we're generating positive free cash flow. We don't need to go into the market, raise money. That means per share value accretion through cash flow earnings for the first time in our history, driven by some of the biggest assets in North America.
David, always appreciate the visits with us here on the Big Biz Show. Always gives us hope for the gold future. Appreciate the visit. We'll have you back on again soon.
David Garofalo, GROY is that ticker. Gold Royalty Corp. I feel better now after talking to Howie earlier today about the Tim.
Yeah, that's big time.
That was a
Thanks,
bummer.
David. David brought us up from the Howie conversation.
Yeah.
All right, keep it here. Lots more with the Big Biz Show right after this.